For soil sampling with deep cores, the supplies you'll need are a 9-pound dead blow hammer, a cutting mat labeled with measurement guidelines, a butter knife, a Sharpie, a probe cleaner, pre-labeled sample bags. You should have 1 2-gallon bag, 4 1-gallon bags, and 20 quart-sized bags. A hammerhead soil probe. It's important that the probe has the same measurements as the ecdysis foundation. The appropriate probe measurements and specific probe type are listed below. You'll take 4 deep soil cores, each measuring the length of 60 centimeters. This is the length of the entire open window of the probe. The window of the probe is the open shaft running the length of the instrument. The head has 2 black handles and a center flat top. The tip is a small cylinder with a hole at the bottom of the cylinder. This part of the probe can be unscrewed and replaced. The 4 cores will be taken at 0 meters, 15 meters, 30 meters, and 45 meters along the transect. At each sampling location, remove any brush, vegetation, or cover obscuring the soil. A quick scuff with your foot is usually sufficient. Place the tip of the probe on the bare soil. Using the handles, push the tip gently into the ground until it can stand in the soil on its own. Make sure that the probe remains straight up and down at a right angle to the ground. Pound the probe into the soil until only a centimeter or 2 of the window is visible. Do not pound the probe beyond the window. Remember to bend your knees. Once you've successfully pounded the probe into the soil, turn the handles of the probe in a clockwise motion. Keep the probe in the soil while doing so. Do not turn the handles in a counterclockwise motion. This will unscrew the tip of the probe. Lifting with your legs and not your back, pull the probe out of the soil by the handles. If you're struggling to remove the probe, use a probe jack. Place the base of the jack as close to the probe as possible. Lift up on the handle as far as you can. This will lower the chain. Wrap the chain around the shaft of the probe under the handle. Attach the chain to the hook on the jack, making it as tight as possible with the handle still extended. Push or pull down on the lever to lift the probe out of the ground. Unhook the chain and pull the probe out the rest of the way. If you still need help, repeat the process to lift the probe out using the jack. After you have obtained a complete deep core sample, measure the soil for sampling. Place the cutting mat on the ground on top of the cutting mat, using the measured markings on the mat as a guide. The top of the soil sample, at the top of the window, should align with the 0 centimeter mark, and the bottom of the window, the area where the window and tip meet, should align with the 60 centimeter mark. You will section the 60 centimeter sample into 5 smaller samples at specific measurements. The 5 samples are 0 to 5 centimeters, 5 to 10 centimeters, 10 to 15 centimeters, 15 to 30 centimeters, and 30 to 60 centimeters. Cut, remove, and bag each measured sample one at a time, completing the first sample before starting the second, and so on. Using the guided measurements on the cutting mat, cut the first sample at the marked increment of 0 to 5 centimeters with the knife. Using the knife, gently lift the measured sample out of the probe and onto the cutting mat. Discard any green or organic material from the top of the probe. Be sure to collect all parts of the 0 to 5 centimeter section. Fold the cutting mat to funnel the soil sample into its appropriately labeled bag. All soil samples of the same measurement will be placed in the same bag from its sampling location along the transect. For example, all 0 to 5 centimeter samples from transect 1 will be placed in the same bag, as well as the other samples from the same transect in their respective bags. If the deep core sample is complete, the probe window should be empty after all 5 samples are taken. If the tip of the probe is still filled with soil, use the butter knife, Sharpie, or probe cleaner to remove the soil from the tip before beginning the next deep core. If your deep core is slightly short and does not reach the full length of the window, use the soil in the tip to complete the 30 to 60 centimeter sample. Ensure there's no residual soil stuck on the sides of the probe. Move to the next sampling location and repeat the process. When each pre-labeled quart bag is filled with its appropriate sample, consolidate all 5 quart bags into the pre-labeled gallon bag for the appropriate transect. Seal and remove the air from all bags. Repeat the entire process at each transect.